Yes, we have a lot to get into. So we've got course changes. We've got to talk about the format. And then, of course, there's only 30 players in the field. We'll probably talk about at least half of them. I don't know. We'll see as we go through here. But Josh, if you want to share my screen, I've got the stats up for East Lake, Greg. And let's just start there because they really kind of tore this thing down to the studs and rebuilt it. So we've got new grasses, we've got new contours, we've got new putting surfaces, we've got a lot more pinnable locations. The par is now a par 71. What is kind of the overall takeaways from this nearly year-long restoration that just happened?
Well, one, it was done by Andrew Green. And if you remember the PGA Championship a couple of years ago at Oak Hill, Andrew Green also redid Oak Hill. So he is kind of a hot up and coming rising star in the architecture business.
He's the man. He's the man in demand right now.
Yes, especially if you have a Donald Ross course and you want to redo it. They looked at a picture from like 1929 or something.
I thought it was the 50s, but I'm not very confident on that. It might have been the 20s. It might have been the late 20s.
49. It might have been 49.
Maybe it was 49.
Yeah, but so they want to take it back to some of those kind of features. So a couple things. One, I think the biggest effect that you'll see this year is there's new grasses, right? Every blade of grass, every inch of turf is redone, ripped up and redone. And that means one thing first and foremost. Aside from the design features that are changed, it will play firm. Right? New courses are always firm. They are always bouncy. So you're going to see some bouncy greens. There has not been a round of golf played on East Lake since the Tour Championship last year.
Wow.
Which is pretty wild. There were hundreds of trees removed. But I will say, and we've talked to Andrew Green about this, his idea of tree removal is more like, let's get rid of some of the trees that don't come into play, right? He is a believer in strategic trees. And so the idea, what I read about is, he wants to, the trees were kind of repositioned to create more shot shaping. The grass, which in the fairway is Zoysia, when it's dry, should play a little faster, a little firmer. It's designed to have a little more movement on the ground, which should make for an interesting watch. But I think the biggest aspect when it comes to what we're going to see on the golf course this week is, one, you're going to have firmer conditions. Two, you're going to have putts that are going to break a little bit differently. So that may have an effect on some of the course history. So I'm looking at course history because I still think there's a value to it, but I'm looking at it a little bit less than usual. I also think making it a par 71 instead of a par 70 will affect scores, if not this year, in the future. But it should affect that for everybody. So not a huge difference there.
14 is the hole that used to play as a par 4 that is now a par 5. That's the way the members had always played it, and the PGA Tour had moved the tees up. They're going to play that as a 5, so it is a par 71. Greg, I want to mine into the course history bit here, because this would normally be a stop where you get a lot of the same players in a similar, identical sized field at the same time of year, and it would be a very sticky course history. Xander, Rory McIlroy, these guys come to mind about always playing well at East Lake. How much are we knocking off of that, right? How much are we, if we are we not considering it as much? And in turn, does that give somebody like Ludwig a little bit of a boost in your mind because everyone's going to be playing it for the first time effectively this week?
It's a very interesting concept. I would knock off probably in the neighborhood of like, make it a percentage, like 5%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't think it's a huge knockoff for guys who have played well at Eastlake. Now, it's also probably not a huge boost if you've played well at Eastlake. For the new guys like Ludwig, who have never played in the Tour Championship before, I think they've gotten pretty darn good. I mean, almost everywhere Ludwig has played has been a new stop for him.
Yeah, well, he's a sicko.
Right.
Yeah,
So if you're here and you're a rookie, you're a sicko. You've learned the golf courses in a day or two. Last week, these guys hadn't seen Castle Pines. I mean, Adam Scott had, but it was redone since he had seen it. Keegan hadn't played there in competition. So I think I think course history in general can give you an idea of if it's a good golf course for him, but recent form and some more specific metrics are very likely more important than course history anyway. So that might be added like 5%.
Okay. That's fair. And I appreciate you going on the record and quantifying that for me. That was very helpful.
Yeah. Are you in a similar place?
I assumed it was going to be more than that. I was surprised to hear you say 5%. I was thinking, I guess I wasn't. I was thinking like 20%.
Okay, so we got a pretty big difference there. And
now maybe
20% because of the greens, the breaks in the greens.
I do. And just, it's I think it's going to look a lot different. I think that like you said, I 100% agree that it's going to be, quite firm. And I just think that it might be a little bit, I don't want to say jarring is like an exaggeration, but whatever 10% of jarring is, right? Just be like maybe just a little uncomfortable for guys that have racked up a lot of rounds and have had a lot of success there. We've kind of seen what doubt does to these guys or what indecision can do to these guys. Maybe it's somewhere in the middle, Greg. Maybe it's 10%, right? You know what I mean? It's got the same bones. Maybe I shouldn't care that much, but I thought you were going to say a higher number than that.
Yeah. Part of it probably is, I just think the course history is a little overrated in general.
Okay.
There are, and Eastlake may be one of them where like Xander's going to play well, but we also have this situation where Xander kind of comes in playing well. Like Xander's always playing well. Rory always has the capability of playing well. So how much of their success at Eastlake is because of Eastlake? And that's something I'm not sure of. I don't think it's such a unique golf course where some guys can figure it out and some guys can't. Right. You just don't see the shots. I think there's a straightforward element to it in general that just simply allows for the best players to play well. It asks questions that if you're good on the PGA Tour all year, Eastlake's probably going to be a good spot for you.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's kind of my reason.